Wszystko zaczęło się od króla Jagiełły. Mała Łodzia stała się miastem, które w XIX wieku rozwijało się najszybciej na świecie. W ciągu zaledwie 60 lat od powstania pierwszej manufaktury powstaje przemysłowa, wielonarodowościowa metropolia. Jednak wiatry historii nie zawsze jej sprzyjały. To, co zniszczył los, odbudowują łodzianie. Nasza Łódź. Miasto wielkich szans. Od 600 lat w sercu Polski i Europy.
Jesteśmy Polakami. Jesteśmy niezwykłym społeczeństwem. Zawsze w obliczu wielkiego wyzwania potrafimy się mobilizować. Potrafimy stawić czoła wielkim wyzwaniom. Bo nie potrafimy stać obojętnie. Bo obchodzi nas bezpieczeństwo i przyszłość naszych dzieci. Bo wierzymy, że nadzieja zwycięża apatię, lęk i strach. Bo mimo wszelkich przeciwności nigdy się nie poddajemy. Potrafimy ciężko pracować, wspierać się i działać razem. Bo zależy nam na naszej ojczyźnie, naszym osiedlu, naszej ulicy. Bo chcemy naszych niezbywalnych praw i wolności. Bo nie oddamy naszych marzeń. Nadchodzi punkt zwrotny.
Dobry wieczór Państwu.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Magda Mołek, and I have a great pleasure to accompany you and to facilitate the last meeting. I would like to say that I would like to open the closure of this year's Freedom Games, the turning point. It's a several-day-long meeting, so thanks for the invitation. We are coming to the end. The Freedom Games 2023 will be completed by the debate on the rule of law. The catchphrase is j'accuse, that means I accuse you. So the speakers on the right represent the Free Court Association, and on the left-hand side there are the members of the opposition. So these are the people who are defending the rule of law. So this is the meeting during which we will try to see what the opposition looks like, what's their attitude towards democracy and freedom. So we would like to have a declaration what to do to fix the rule of law. Our meeting will be subdivided into two rounds. During the first one, politicians and lawyers will receive some time to give the answer to the questions. In the first round, there will be questions on what has been devastated and who do you accuse for violating the rule of law. During the second round, together, we will try to consider how to fix this mess. This is what's in my text. Are you ready? So I'll try to measure the time. On your monitors in red you can see the time. Oh, somebody cannot see it. So please don't go back because there's no space behind us. So please, the opposition, do not go back. Stay in your places and go forward. So I'm going to measure the time because this main time is not of interest, so some technical issues. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I am speaking to the people on the left. You've got 1.5 minutes to answer my question. I know. So you will have a power speech to deliver. You're quite used to them. You've got your iPhones and watches. So I'll be keeping time. So I will say exactly who is going to speak to answer the question. So I will try to manage technology. So I will ask the question and then I will start the timer. So on it is reporting this event. So just some more rules. Of course, I introduced myself, but I didn't introduce the speakers, the presenters. So if you just stay in a small office, you have a channel on YouTube, you just introduce yourselves and one guest or two guests, so it's much easier. Anyway, on the left-hand side, an activist and Polska 2050, Michał Kobosko, MP of the Civic Coalition, Kamila Gasiuk-Pihowicz. You have some fans here. Deputy spokesman of PSL, Piotr Zgorzelski from the Peasants Party, Magdalena Biejat, an MP of the Together. And my right-hand side, Sylwia Gregorczyk-Abram, Paulina Kieszkowska, Ejchart, Michał Wawrykiewicz. That is the Boldness under the Free Courts Initiative.
Rozpoczynamy rundę pierwszą.
So we are starting round number 1. Let's get ready.
Do startu. Pierwsze
The
pytanie
first question to the first person I will indicate. You have 1.5 minutes and the other party they always receive 1.5 minutes. The first question to Michał Kobosko. When it comes to the High Court, Constitutional Court, what has been broken? Who do you accuse? Everything was devastated in general when it comes to the Constitutional High Court of Justice. We are talking about the Court of Julia Przyłębska. This is the right name for this court, but the board, the board on the building says that it's the Constitutional High Court. What has happened during the past 8 years is the tragic comedy. So the tragedy was what Loyal Justice Party did to the court in Poland. The comedy, it's not the lunches, catering, in the fashion that wouldn't be accepted by Magda Gessler. The comedy is what was happening this year, rapid attempts to save the situation, attempts to find a way, to find a quorum, to make sure that the pseudo court could operate and give rulings. So this court became the entity of the government, delivers politicians' objectives. It should watch the politicians, but it's the politicians who watch the court. And through the non-constitutional court of the fake judges took control of the court, so it's no longer impartial, it's not apolitical, so it all has taken us to the situation that for the first time in the history of Europe, actually there is the proceeding against Poland in the mode of Article 5. So everything has been broken and everything has to be fixed in the Constitutional High Court. Three courts comment?
To może ja.
Maybe me. Good evening.
Wspaniale się zgadzać z trzecią drogą.
It's great to agree with the trzecia droga. I agree. Maybe I would like to add that choosing these fake judges, actually they were appointed to the positions of judges during the night time. So the appointment was by President Duda. It's good information to us that there's already the first judgment, the first ruling of the European Court of Human Rights. It's about a company that has filed a constitutional complaint that the fake judge received this case. So if you go to the court and somebody is sitting there, of course wearing specific clothes, but actually you mentioned this article which talks about impartial treatment of the court. I would like to add the choice of Julia Przyłębska. It was faulty too. It was the faulty procedure under which she was selected, and the term of Julia Przyłębska has just come to the end, and she should not continue to do this office. Actually, it came to the end in December last year. Thank you. Michał, you've got 15 seconds to answer the question, because who do you accuse? You didn't say who you accuse. I accuse Jarosław Kaczyński for this situation, Zbigniew Ziobro. I accuse all the people who were helping them in this process, and some of them have become judges of the so-called Constitutional High Court, the court of Julia Przyłębska. Thank you very much. We will proceed with the area of the national courts, disciplinary procedure. What has been devastated, and who do you accuse? Magdalena, Biejat.
Podwójna kontrola.
The time is running. Double control. Ladies and gentlemen, the situation in the court, actually Zbigniew Ziobro is guilty, and the people who have supported him, Prime Minister Morawiecki and Jarosław Kaczyński, who support the so-called Zbigniew Ziobro's reform that was not to fix the functioning of the courts. Anyone who has been to the court in Poland, we know that a lot has to be fixed, but the reforms were to adapt the courts to make sure that they should follow the orders of the government. What is happening in the courts today? When we go to the courts, actually today I accuse the government that the proceedings take long time. If you want to get divorce, any child that is the subject of violence, any mother who would like to get maintenance for the children, actually people do not want to go to the court because they do not want to take part in this procedure. So there is not enough administrative support. The work in the courts is it's not good. The salaries are very low. People are not paid overtime. So it is all translated in the situation in the courts. Then there is the lack of appropriate access to the defenders. People cannot be exempted from paying charges, and there are no real charges. And the course of work, it's not possible to reach this course. The procedures are taking long time. So things that are very important to people are not working properly. Free courts. I would like to add that systematically independence of the National Judiciary Council has been devastated. It's like the backbone, according to the Polish constitution. It's the backbone of the judiciary system. This entity should be independent on the government, so it should be responsible, it should take care of the independence of courts and judges. The council consists of 25 people and 15 members of this council have to be selected by the judges based on the constitution. The government changed in 2018 and they selected the council, and the 15 judges were appointed by the ordinary majority in Sejm. It's not compliant with the constitution, with the European standards. So we've got a lot of rulings by, for example, the European High Court of Justice. There was a judgment in November 2019. We were responsible for this case on behalf of the Supreme Administrative Court. For the first time, the European Court of Justice has identified some standards and decided that the Council is not the independent body and it cannot appoint or promote judges. And now this Council is the factory of pseudo judges that have not been selected in the right way. You have exceeded the time by 9 seconds. It's not a lot. So we will take it away from you in the next round. The next question to politicians. The prosecutor's office, combining the positions of the Minister of Justice and the Prosecutor General. Who do you accuse? Piotr Zgorzelski. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. During the protest in 2017, Polish people understood one thing, that the rule of law is the rule where the court can guarantee personal safety. Towards the courts, the citizen is defenseless in the individual dimension, but when we're looking at the general social and economic dimension, it provided the sense of safety to those who are involved in business activities and who could be certain that no authority voluntarily will not be able to take their assets from them. In Poland now we have the following situation, combining these two functions of Prosecutor General and the Ministry of Justice provided one man, the man who is a leader of a party which decides about the parliamentary majority, because this term is still lasting. So this man received huge power and he started to use this power for political reasons. So nowadays this is the main problem in this system. We cannot talk about any reform of the judicial system because, as the colleague has already mentioned, any indicators show that in every the system's operations are worse and worse. But I accuse not Zbigniew Ziobro, who is just an instrument. I would like to accuse Jarosław Kaczyński, who is fully liable, accountable for this. Comment from the Wolny Sąd.
Thank you. Now I'll take the floor. I would like to come back to accusing Zbigniew Ziobro, who owned not only the institution, the office of the Prosecutor General, but the whole prosecutor's institution, and he created a fully political institution where the prosecutor is not a lawyer, the prosecutor does not go to court. In every fifth case, the judge reads the act, and this is like the super police person. He created the most expensive and the most extended structure. We've got over 7,000 prosecutors, 2.5 in Poland, and nearly 7,000 in Poland. The last thing, which is very important, the Prosecutor General and the Minister of Justice has granted the right to undermine every lawful sentence in Polish court. He can also affect every court procedure in this country, especially when it ends not according to his will. He can renew it owing to the instrument he created. Thank you. And the last thematic scope, our relationships with the European Union, Council of Europe, and violating the European Convention on Human Rights. What has been devastated, and whom do you accuse? Kamila, Gasiuk-Pihowicz. First and foremost, I think Jarosław Kaczyński, because he is the architect and perpetrator of the war between the Polish state and European institutions. Andrzej Duda is another one to accuse because he appointed neo-judges for judges' positions. He appointed Julia Przyłębska. He signed acts which contradicted the Polish constitution and European acts, for instance, the neo High Court Act. For violating the rights. I would like to accuse Mateusz Mazowiecki's government and ministers, and because of him being so obstinate, Poland lost money from the National Recovery Plan. We need to pay 2.5 billion zlotys for the disciplinary chamber. The pseudo-reform of the Polish judiciary system contradicted the European system. I accuse Beata Szydło for not publishing confirming
bagatelizowanie rekomendacji
the
Komisji Weneckiej.
sentence.
Oskarżam także Zbigniewa Ziobrę, bo
The
jest on
sentence, and
osobiście
I
odpowiedzialny
accuse
za niszczenie
Zbigniew
wymiaru
Ziobro as he is
sprawiedliwości.
responsible
Polska jest po
for
prostu
damaging the
jego
judiciary
zakładnikiem
system in
i
Poland.
niechęci
Poland is
do sprawnie
his
działającego wymiaru
hostage, the hostage of
i
his
przez to nie ma żadnych
bad
szans
will,
na kompromis z
and
Unią
there is no
Europejską,
chance for
bo on
compromise
na
with
tym
the
zbija
European
swój
Union
osobisty
because
kapitał
this is what
Dziękuję bardzo. Komentarz
where
proszę
he
pan
derives
sądy.
his
Dziękuję bardzo.
political
Chciałabym
capital
tylko
from
dodać,
free courts.
prawniczo, że przecież do Unii
I would
weszliśmy
like to
na podstawie
add that we
referendum,
entered the
gdzie
EU based on the
powiedziała
referendum,
większość
where
większa niż jakakolwiek
the
głosująca na jakąkolwiek partię.
greater majority accepted such a solution. We decided together to be a member state, and we undertook efforts towards this purpose according to the dreams of our ancestors who wanted Poland to be the country belonging to the Western community. Now there are 20-something sentences of the tribunal in Luxembourg, and sentences. The sentences result from the treaties that Poland had signed and undertook to observe them. To everybody accusing European Union of interfering into Polish affairs, these European treaties are supreme to Polish acts. This is the only legal platform under which we can defend our freedom and liberties, not only in the case of jurisdiction, but in other areas related to environmental protection and protection of our subjective rights. We decided to join the EU. We are still the beneficiaries of the member states. Polish farmers get subsidies. Polish roads are reconstructed due to European money, and we should respect the membership.
Dziękuję bardzo, to prawie koniec pierwszej rundy.
Thank you
Mam
very
jeszcze
much. That's nearly the end of the first round. There is an extra question to you. We heard examples and accusations, but now a question.
Czy te osoby, które państwo
Do
wymieniają
these
jako
people
winne
you
sytuacji
mentioned as the ones to blame for the situation should be held liable, and if after the 15th of October you'll be able to participate in the new authorities of the new Poland,
osobami albo przedstawicielami ugrupowań,
will you
które
represent
będą
the groups
pociągały do
that will
odpowiedzialności
hold
osoby,
these
które
people liable?
wymieniliście jednym słowem, czy po prostu będzie za to kara? Pan Michał.
Will there be the punishment for what they did?
Krótka odpowiedź.
Short answer,
sekund.
30 seconds.
Brzmi tak.
Yes, that's the short answer.
Nie można
Definitely
odpuścić,
so.
nie można
We must
pozwolić na
not
to,
leave it
żeby,
behind, and we must
łamanie
not let
prawa,
them get away
łamanie
with
zasad
what they did,
demokracji, praworządności
violating the
pozostało
rules of
bezkarne,
law
to
and
by
violating
aż prosiło
the
o ewentualną
jurisdiction
recydywę
cannot be
w
left
przyszłości.
alone,
To musi być
and
także dla
punishment
naszych rządów
should
pewne
be
ostrzeżenie, że po prostu
they should be
pewnych rzeczy
punished.
w kraju
It's like a
demokratycznym
warning
w XXI
that
wieku robić nie wolno.
it's not possible
Rozliczymy.
to do certain things in a democratic
Ciepła woda
country
w
in
kranie,
the
polityka
21st century.
miłości. Pani
Hot water, the
posłanka
policy of
Kamila,
love.
Jakie jest Pani stanowisko? Karać? Będzie za to kara?
Should we
Absolutnie
punish
rozliczymy.
for it?
Nie
We
ma
will definitely hold them
demokratycznego państwa,
liable.
nie ma
There is no
praworządnego państwa, jeżeli
democratic
politycy nie
state.
czują,
The
że
state of
poniosą
the rule of law.
odpowiedzialność
If
za łamanie
politicians
prawa, zwłaszcza konstytucji.
do not feel
Droga
they
do
are
procesu
responsible
prowadzi
for
wyrobotkowo.
violating the
Z jednej strony
constitutions,
jest to
there are
odpowiedzialność przed
many
Trybunałem
ways to
Stanu.
reach it
Ale mówiąc
from
wprost, wiele z tych
the
przestępstw to są po
Tribunal
prostu
of State,
przestępstwa
but many
pospolite, które
crimes
będziemy
are
ścigać na gruncie
simply
kodeksu karnego. Będą to
common
robiły,
crimes.
będzie to robiła niezależna
It
prokuratura
will
i
be done
niezawisłe
by
sądy.
independent
My
courts and
gwarantujemy
independent
tylko
prosecutors'
sprawność
office.
działania tych
We can
instytucji, ale
guarantee
odpowiedzialność
the efficiency
karna,
of their
która
operation,
będzie
but
ciążyła na tych
the
politykach,
penal
których
responsibility
nazwiska wszyscy znamy, to jest
of the
odpowiedzialność, do której
politicians
zostaną
whose names we
pociągnięci przed
know is the
niezależną
responsibility
prokuraturą i
they
niezawisłymi
should
sądami.
reveal in the
Dziękuję
face
bardzo.
of
Panie
independent
marszałku, ma pan
courts.
30
Thank
sekund.
you, Marshall. You've got 30 seconds.
Sekund.
Polskie Stronnictwo
Seconds.
Ludowe ma pomysł i to jest pomysł programowy.
There
aby
is
po wygranych
an
wyborach przez partie
idea
demokratyczne
that if
powołać
democratic
komisję
parties win the
do spraw
election,
prawa
a
i
commission
sprawiedliwości.
for law
Bowiem
and
przekroczeń
justice
zarówno
should be
prawa, ale
appointed.
także
There have been
tych
so
wszystkich
many
rzeczy,
violations
które
and breaches
partia
of
władzy
the
przez
law
8 lat robiła, jest tak dużo,
done by the
że
ruling party for
naprawdę
8
taka komisja
years.
będzie miała bardzo wiele,
Such a
bardzo
commission
wiele
will
pracy.
have
I
a
to
lot
jest
of
oczywiście
work.
ten pomysł nasz o charakterze politycznym.
This is a political
Czy
idea.
oni powinni stanąć przed
Whether they
Trybunałem Stanu?
should
Myślę, że nazwiska tutaj już
be
padły i drugi raz
accused
nie ma
in
sensu ich
the
powtarzać. Zgadzam się także
Tribunal
z
of
Kamilą,
State,
że
I do
wiele
agree
osób, które
that I do
dzisiaj
agree with
sprawują
Kamila
władzę i
that
zarządzają
many
wymiarem
people who
sprawiedliwości
manage the
najzwyczajniej w
jurisdiction
świecie będą musiały
system
stanąć przed sądem.
should be sued in court. And last but not least, Magdalena
Tak, to jest
Biejat.
dowód na to, że
That's
już tutaj w obszarze
the
prawa
proof
praworządności
that in the
jako
area of the rule of law we fully agree.
Ze strony lewicy tym tematem zajmuje się
In
Krzysztof Śmiszek, który
Krzysztof Śmiszek is
raport
responsible
akt
for this
oskarżenia.
area
Zebraliśmy
in
wszystkie
the left-wing
przewinienia,
party.
które
This is the
dzisiaj
indictment
I
in
przedstawił
which
również
we
projekt
collected
wskazać
all the
powołania Komisji
accusations, and
Sprawiedliwości
there
i
is an
Prawa,
idea to
bo
appoint a
uznaliśmy, że
commission
jednak
of
będziecie się odróżniać.
justice and law, just to make it different from law and justice. And we would like the committee to carry out an audit for 6 months. It's not going to replace the prosecutor's office and the courts. It's their role to ensure jurisdiction. I can ensure that none of us will be in will get stuck in the left when somebody will have to be accused against the
Dziękuję bardzo.
Tribunal of
Proszę pamiętać,
State.
że to jest po pierwsze transmitowane na
Please
żywo,
do
a
remember
drugie
it's broadcasted online. It will be recorded, so we'll have the tapes of truth. Michał Wawrykiewicz
rozpoczyna właśnie rundę drugą
starts
naszego
the
spotkania.
second
Proszę
round.
Państwa, to jest runda, w której będziemy
This
się
is the
zastanawiać,
round
jak
in
Państwo
which
politycy
we
mają
are
zamiar
going
naprawić
to
ten
wonder how
bałagan,
the politicians
o którym
are
już
going
tutaj
to
zostało
remedy for the mess we have heard
bieżąco
about.
między innymi działalność wolnych sądów,
The operation of free media, free courts,
prawniczych i prawników w
and
ogóle,
legal
którzy rozumieją,
institutions
co dzieje
and
się w Polsce z
lawyers who
praworządnością,
understand what
na
is
temat
happening in
informowani
Poland
na
with
bieżąco.
the rule of
Zdajemy
law.
sobie również wszyscy chyba
We are fully
jesteśmy sprawę
aware
z tego,
of the fact
jak dość ciężko w hermetycznym prawniczym
that
języku
in
docierać do
the
opinii publicznej,
legal
wyborców,
jargon
wyborców,
finds it
obywatelek,
different
obywateli z
to
jasnym przekazem,
reach citizens with a
formułującym
clear
te tezy,
message,
które dzisiaj poruszamy.
formulating the
I
statements
mówiącym
we
jasno, że
are talking about.
nieznajomość prawa szkodzi, a
It is
połączenie prawa,
harmful not to know the law, and combining law with politics is even more detrimental. Let's consider your ideas on how to improve the situation. What you can see here in front of me, this is the memorandum for the rule of law signed in December 2021, signed by social organizations and representatives of the largest parties. This is the proof that democratic opposition is going to fight for restoring the rule of law. We'll see what it's going to be like. We've got the tapes of truth and we'll also reveal one more idea later. In the second round,
moja droga prawica po lewej mojej stronie, lewico, 2,5
you've got
minuty na
2.5
odpowiedź na moje
minutes to answer my question.
Minuta więcej.
It's 1 minute more than
Pytanie
previously.
jest bardzo
The
proste,
question
czyli jak,
is simple,
macie zamiar,
namely,
kiedy obejmiecie rządy w
once
Polsce, kiedy
you
obejmiecie, albo jeśli
or
obejmiecie rządy w Polsce,
once or
naprawić
if
zniszczenia,
you
jak macie
start
zamiar
ruling in
przywrócić
Poland, how do
praworządność,
you
nasze
want
dobre
to
relacje
restore
z
the
naszą
rule of
pozycję
justice
w Unii
and
Europejskiej?
our position in the European Union? 2.5 minutes for your speeches and comments of the free
I
courts.
zaczynamy znów
Let's
od
start
Trybunału
with
Konstytucyjnego.
the
Co trzeba zrobić, aby
Constitutional
przywrócić
Tribunal.
niezależność
What
i
should we
prestiż
do
Trybunału?
to restore
Jakie są
independence and
na to
prestige?
pomysły?
What ideas
Magdalena
do you have?
Biejat.
Magdalena Biejat.
Oczywiście Trybunał musi zostać
The tribunal needs to be depoliticized. We need to restore the belief that the tribunal will not be political, but it will act according to the best interest of citizens. But it won't happen within a month, or it will take more time. We, the left wing, support the Batory Foundation's draft act, which is meant to improve the situation in the Constitutional Tribunal. The greatest advantage of this idea is that independent judges restore order in the tribunal. We should include disciplinary assessment of the judges, even judges emeritus. They should decide and sue people who sit in the Constitutional Tribunal without the right to do so. I would like to remind you that soon, and most probably this year, correct me if I'm wrong, the terms of office of the first judges appointed by the Law and Justice will expire. It means a huge challenge to appoint people who will represent the interests of our citizens, not interests of specific parties, but who will be sensitive to human harm and who will issue sentences according to social solidarity and access to the rights we have guaranteed in our Constitution. We would like to implement all these changes according to the spirit of the rule of law. We shouldn't take advantage of some open gates. There will be a temptation to go shortcuts among politicians. We must not go shortcuts, and we don't have to go shortcuts. There are good solutions, good ideas. We can do it according to the law, according to constitutions, and in such a way that there is finally order in this area. 7 seconds. I will comment.
Jeszcze dodam do tego, bo oczywiście się zgadzam.
Okay, let me elaborate on it. First and foremost, these double judges need to be removed. We've got the sentence of the European Court of Human Rights that need to be executed straight away. What the MP mentioned is the project developed by the Batory Foundation, consulted with us and with other milieux, and we also supported it. Assumes solving the issue with the double judges. What if the person had not been the judge? What about the sentences? 14 sentences had been issued this way. We suppose they should be invalidated, except for the cases when it applied to citizens' rights and granting some rights. The draft act takes a broader perspective, namely how to make the Constitutional Court more efficient. It contains a number of good practices and recommendations. The 3/5, not 2/3, will appoint the judges to choose people who are competent, experienced, and not only related to one side of the political stage. It also assumes legitimizing NGOs for submitting applications to the Constitutional Tribunal. And this is your representation that you don't have. And it also assumes appointing the new president of the Constitutional Tribunal. We can see what happens with Ms. Przyłębska when she is the only person managing the court. Thank you.
Neo Council and the courts and the disciplinary proceedings. What should you do with the council and with the neo judges? Also the young judges who have completed the school. What about their rulings? Should we provide the supervision of the courts to the National Judiciary Council? Are there any ideas to this? Kamila Gasiuk-Pihowicz. First of all, immediately all the judgments have to be implemented. I mean the judgments of the European Court of Justice and European Court of Human Rights and the judgments of the Supreme Court and the chambers of this court. And the basis to rebuild the rule of order is agreement for the rule of law, which has been signed by all the all the parties of the democratic opposition. So we always follow the rule to elaborate this in consensus based on good experience of NGOs or associations of prosecutors, judges that have elaborated the best solutions in the key areas. I believe that we are able to convince all the political forces to this agreement because semi-means will not be sufficient. We need hard actions because there is no legality here. So people have to know that once they go to the court, they are observed by the judge, not somebody who is dressed up as a judge. So this agreement for the rule of law is based on the judgments of the European tribunals. It's not a political solution. This is the content-based solution. The ruling by neo-judges causes chaos. Poland has to pay a lot of money, bigger increasing amounts of money because it does not meet the standards of, for example, the Convention for the Protection of Human Rights. So we have to stop this. And there is a draft on the table, and it assumes that the National Judiciary Council should be appointed based on the Constitution. It should be the judges who should choose the members. And according to this proposal, the neo-judges who were selected in the inappropriate manner, they have to get back to their previous jobs. This is also a solution that foresees that there are salaries that are higher than the salaries from the previous jobs should be considered to be as the salaries that were not due to them because they cannot be awarded for destroying the rule of law. So we cannot allow these illegal deals. The assessors, so the people for the neo council had a symbolical role to play. They will maintain their jobs, and the citizens cannot be liable for the errors by the state. Free courts? This is true. The lawyers who go to the courts on a daily basis, they know that there was a lot of chaos caused by the changes introduced by the Law and Justice, and in the system of 10,000 judges, now we've got over 3,000 neo-judges. Every day we meet with them at our work. This means that there is the lack of independence. They are not impartial because they were selected in the faulty competitions, and the politicians were supporting them. So they have to be grateful to the politicians now. And there were the rulings they passed were faulty. So all the citizens, all the parties which received the specific rulings, they cannot be calm that these rulings will not be changed. They all can be changed. Now in the Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg, there have been several hundreds cases filed by NGOs, by foundations, and the parties request compensations from the Republic of Poland, and these compensations are actually sentenced by the European court institutions. So we have to fix it on the systemic basis. We cannot deal with this one by one because it would take many years. So we need to get them back to their previous positions if they would like to take part in the transparent, fair competitions in the rightful council. It won't be a vendetta, it won't be a revenge. This will be a systemic repair of our system. Thank you very much. It was a strong speech. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we will proceed with the prosecutor's office, how to restore the independence of this entity. This question is for Michał Kobosko, 2.5 minutes. We have already said about the prosecutor's office, how it functions, which system they are using for the work. Nowadays, Polish prosecutors prosecutors hate the system that has been developed in which they have to operate. It's important that they hate it, but it's not most important. Politicians of democratic parties do not like it either. It's not still most important. What's most important is that citizens of Poland cannot have this feeling that the prosecutors are working in the right way, that the prosecutors are doing what they have been prepared and educated for, which they used to do previously. If in Poland there is no prosecutor who should deal with Jarosław Kaczyński during the two towers affair, it showed to the citizens that it's a pathology in Poland. The standard has to be that we have to create independent prosecutor's office. This job cannot be done by people who are afraid of criminals, and they cannot be also afraid of politicians, including the Minister of Justice. So we will have to separate the function of the Minister of Justice from the function of the Prosecutor General. So we have to restore the system which has been functioning before in Poland. Of course, we will have to improve it, but these functions have to be separated. This is a postulate of all democratic parties when it comes to the Prosecutor General. He should be selected by the two chambers of the Parliament. The Minister of Justice cannot control Prosecutor General. So the collective entity should be appointed, the Supreme Council of Prosecutors. It will be composed of prosecutors and representatives of the general prosecutors of Parliament, judges, representatives of the President of Poland, Minister of Justice. So without all these elements, we won't be able to improve the situation, and the citizens will not feel that they can receive appropriate support from the prosecutors. Comment from the three courts. The prosecutor's office is of key importance, has always been of key importance. Poland didn't have much luck with the independent prosecutor's office because in 1989 the prosecutor's office was not reformed. It functioned until 2016 based on the act dating back to 1985. In the year 2016, Minister Zbigniew Ziobro reformed the prosecutor's office, and he developed an entity that is totally dependent on him. I think that we deserve the Polish prosecutor's office, which will be the true European prosecutor's office, which will be trusted by other prosecutors' offices from other countries. I would like to see that this is the independent prosecutor's office, also in the internal and external dimension. So, if a prosecutor receives a case, and let's say if we think that a crime has been made, this is the prosecutor who will be dealing with this case until the very end. This is somebody who will be developing the act of accusation and completes the process. So this will be the prosecutor who will be supervising the implementation of the judgment. He will be responsible for the entire case. I would like this prosecutor's office to be empathic, which sees citizens, that wants to address the harm made to the citizens. I would like to see this prosecutor's office being the entity that is subject of the social control, that feels responsible and accountable to the citizens. I would like it to be transparent internally, where each prosecutor knows where and how he will be delegated, when he will be promoted or she will be promoted, and when he or she will be moved to another prosecutor's office. So this prosecutor's office must be a kind of flat. The structure has to be flattened. Now it's a multi-layer prosecutors, and at the very top there is the super policeman, the Minister of Justice. The prosecutor's office should be flattened. There are no reasons for having so many layers. Nowadays this office is like a concrete structure, cemented structure. Even the address is in the law. It's located at the Postępu Street. The national prosecutor, several weeks ago, he received huge competences. Why? Because the Minister of Justice, Zbigniew Ziobro, knows that these are the last weeks of him being the prosecutor. So it will not be so easy. So we have to cement this, including the Postępu Street. I will sum up the flattened but empathetic prosecutor's office. This is a good term.
And the last topic, we're going to deal with our relationships with the European Union and with the Council of Europe and violating the acts. Should we implement all acts related to the rule of law? And additionally, since one of the milestones of the National Recovery Plan is to implement transparent legislative process, what should we do to repair it? The question to Piotr Zgorzelski. 2.5 minutes. Our country's system is like in an abyss, like the rift between authoritarian regime and democracy. There are two features which characterize this hybrid system, namely the primate of authorities over the law and personification of institutions, Ziobro's prosecutor's office and Przyłębska's constitutional tribunal. The recipe to stop this process and come back to the track of liberal democracy is to implement the rule of law. I would like to come back to my experience. I organized a round table around the judiciary system, having representatives from all parties. You do not have, but for one, we had representatives of legal corporations from Ordo Juris through to Justitia and Temis. And there was a strong voice of associations that felt harmed by the judiciary system. When these people who over the years were fighting for justice and lost their health, lost their money, said that the rule of law rather than the rule of lawyers should come back. I do understand that this is not an accusation of those who fight for the rule of law, but this is what you should take into consideration. We heard an argument of democratization or democratization of sentences, so to have traditional juries. This is to give food for thought. The huge bubble of social dissatisfaction with the functioning of the judiciary system has not grown too much. As for the National Recovery Plan, I do agree that one of the milestones is to repair the parliamentary system. In the Senate, a document, Open Parliamentarism, was created. Your time is up. You answered my question about implementing the sentences of the European Union's
To mamy te
Court
część
of
za sobą. Poproszę
Justice.
jeszcze o komentarz wolnych
It should be done
sądów.
immediately. A
My
comment
oczywiście
from
też uważamy, że powinny być
free
wykonane,
courts.
tym bardziej, że
We
niektóre z nich
do
zostały
agree,
wywalczone przez wolne sądy,
especially
w związku z tym
because some of
mamy
them
tutaj
have,
osobiste zaangażowanie, ale chciałabym
in
też
some of them we
powiedzieć,
have been personally
że od tego,
involved.
czy
I would like to
te
say
wyroki zostaną wykonane,
that whether
jak będzie
these
zachowywać się nowa władza,
sentences
zależy nie
are
tylko od stanu
executed and
sędziów,
how the new
ale zależy w ogóle nasza przyszłość.
authorities will
Też nie tylko
behave
finansowa,
will determine
KPO,
our
pieniądze z
future,
Unii,
national recovery
dopłaty
plan
dla
money
rolników, te
from
wszystkie
the
benefity, które mamy
EU
z tego,
and
że jesteśmy w
subsidies
Schengen,
for
że
farmers,
powinniśmy
all the
państwo
benefits
być,
of
które nie oszukuje
being
sąsiadów,
a
nie
member
wydają
of
fałszywych wiz za
Schengen, the fact
pieniądze.
that we do
To
not
też
cheat
jest
our neighbors,
element
that we
bycia
do not
w Unii.
issue
Szacunek dla prawa,
false
szacunek
visas,
dla
respecting the
obywatela,
law,
szacunek dla
respecting the
partnerów europejskich.
citizens,
Chciałam też powiedzieć,
and
że mamy
respecting
jeszcze spory
other
zasób
European
zaufania
citizens.
wśród
We
partnerów
still
europejskich dzięki
have
polskim sędziom.
some
Bardzo
pool
chciałabym
of
Państwa
trust
poprosić o to,
owing to Polish
abyście podziękowali
judges.
polskim
I
sędziom
would
za
like
ich
you
postawę
to
przez
thank
ostatnie
Polish
lata,
judges
bo
for
tylko dzięki nim
their
tak naprawdę możemy
attitude
tutaj jeszcze się
throughout the
spotkać
last years.
i o
Owing
tym
to
wszystkim
them, we
rozmawiać.
can sit
Aplauz
here
dla
and
polskich
discuss it.
sędziów.
And round of applause for Polish judges.
Dziękuję, to też koniec komentarza.
That's the end of my comment. Thank you.
To co, możemy powoli przechodzić do konkluzji.
So, I suppose we can wrap up. I can see our lawyers are satisfied and politicians said we should keep them short. We should keep an eye on them. We promised the third
Wspólne stanowisko
proof
w sprawie
of your
tego, że
shared
praworządność w Polsce wymaga ogromnej zmiany, przywrócenia wszelkich zasad.
shared
I że
opinion
państwo
on
się
how
pod
to
tym podpisują,
restore
ale może spróbujmy
the rule of law.
podsumować, że
Let's
chcą państwo
wrap
oddzielenia
up, let's
sądownictwa
summarize. You want to
prokuratury od
separate
polityki.
prosecutor's
Zgoda?
office and the judicial process from
Wykonanie wyroków
politics.
Trybunału
Agreed.
Europejskiego. Nie słychać mnie?
Executing
Zgoda. Powołanie
sentences
zgodnej
of
z
the European courts.
konstytucją
Agreed.
Zgoda.
The
Trochę jak
agreement
wiecie,
according to the
przysięgam
National
mężczyzn.
Justice Board.
Ślubuję.
Agreed,
Oddzielenie funkcji
agreed.
ministra sprawiedliwości
Separating
od
the function of the Minister of
prokuratora
Justice from the
generalnego.
function of the Prosecutor General.
Ślubuję, właśnie.
Agreed.
I podjęcie skutecznych działań w
And,
odblokowaniu środków z KPO. Mój Boże, ile to
releasing
pieniędzy.
funds from the
Obiecuję,
National
ślubuję, przysięgam.
Recovery
Oczywiście,
Plan.
dziękuję bardzo.
We do promise.
Dobrze.
Right.
Na koniec
Just to
wolne sądy
finish,
chcą powiedzieć coś
Free
szalenie
courts
istotnego,
would like
zanim
to say
rozwiniemy
something pivotal
banner.
before we
Ja
show
bym
the
chciał tylko
banner.
dodać, że
I would like to
cały
add
pakiet, mówiliśmy już trochę
that
dzisiaj o
we have
projektach
mentioned
ustaw. Ten cały
some
pakiet
draft
gotowych
acts.
projektów ustaw już istnieje, został
There is the
przygotowany,
package
szeroko
of acts
skonsultowany
that has
społecznie.
been
Mówiliśmy o projekcie
consulted
Fundacji
and
Batorego,
prepared. We
zespołu
mentioned the
ekspertów
Batory
prawnych,
Foundation
na temat Trybunału
group
Konstytucyjnego i przepisów
working
przejściowych.
on the transition
Mówiliśmy o ustawie w ramach porozumienia dla praworządności,
acts. We talked
która mówi
about
o
understanding
likwidacji
for the rule of
neokRS-u
law,
i powołaniu zgodnej z Konstytucją Krajowej Rady Sądownictwa. Jest w końcu
abolition of the
cała nowa
NEO
ustawa,
National
prawo
Justice Board.
sądów powszechnych,
There is the
przygotowana
whole
przez
act
Stowarzyszenie
on
Sędziów
courts
Polskich
prepared
Justicja.
by the
Ogromne
Polish judges
podziękowania
from
dla pana
Justitia. We'd like to
profesora
thank
Markiewicza za
Professor
ogromny
Christian
wkład
Markiewicz
pracy. No i w
for
końcu
his
ustawa o
contribution.
prokuraturze,
And finally, the
przygotowana
act on
przez
Prosecutor's Office
stowarzyszenie, to niezależne stowarzyszenie
prepared by the
prokuratorów
independent
Lex Super Omnia. Gotowy
association
projekt
Lex
pomysłów
Super
i rozwiązań
Omnia.
legislacyjnych do wprowadzenia
Legislative
w następnym parlamencie.
acts to be implemented
A
in the
następny
next
parlament jest
parliament. And the
nowy
next
parlament,
parliament, the
możliwy za
new
niecały miesiąc,
parliament,
15 października
is
spotykamy się
possible
na
to be
wyborach.
elected
Apeluję
on
zawsze
the
tam, gdzie
15th
mogę,
of
o to,
October.
aby nie tylko
I ask
mieć świadomość,
everybody
że macie głos,
to
ale przede wszystkim,
be
żeby
aware that we
tego
do
głosu
have the
użyć.
voice
Czekamy
and to
więc na to,
use
co
the
będzie.
voice.
Będziemy
So
patrzeć
we are
wam
looking
na
forward
ręce.
to what the future
Natomiast
brings. We'll
wolne
keep an
sądy
eye on
rozwijają
it.
teraz
And
banner o
now
haśle, którego nie znam jeszcze. Proszę odczytać.
Wspólnie odbudujemy praworządność i
we are
zapraszamy
going
Państwa.
to rebuild the rule of law together.
To będzie właśnie ten kolejny dowód w
This is
sprawie.
going to be the next proof in our case.
Kwestia praworządności łączy czy dzieli polityków z demokratycznej opozycji? Zdaje się, że
So
łączy.
whether
Czy
to
łączy?
bring
Poproszę tylko
together,
o
whether
ruch ciała,
separate, yes,
głową
it
w dół,
brings us
nie
all
w prawo, nie w
together.
lewo, może
Yes,
być góra,
please
dół.
move your
Bardzo
heads
dziękuję, mamy
vertically.
to, mamy też ten
Thank you
dowód.
very much. We've got the proof now. We've got the confirmation.
To co, pozostaje mi podziękować. Nie wiem, czy, proszę uważać, na tyły. Nie wiem, czy mamy od
I
organizatorów
don't
prawo
know if
oddania
we
państwu
have the
głosu,
right
ale
to
na
give the
pewno czas
floor to
naszej
the
debaty
audience, but
za chwilę
definitely
minie,
the
bo
time
mamy
of
jeszcze
our
10
debate
minut.
is nearly up. We've got 3
Lepsi
minutes.
są ode mnie w liczeniu. Czy ktoś z
left.
Państwa chciałby zadać
Would
pytanie?
anybody
Bardzo proszę,
like to
prawo
ask a
pierwszeństwa.
question?
Można do nas podejść.
You can
Czy
approach
ktoś
us
ma mikrofon
and
dla
ask a
pana?
question.
O,
We also
dziękuję
need a microphone.
Pytanie do... Już?
Nie działa? Proszę jeszcze raz spróbować.
Teraz?
Proszę jeszcze raz spróbować. Nasi dźwiękowcy
Raz,
walczą
dwa.
o prawo głosu dla pana.
Okay, so we're waiting for the right
Pytanie
of
dotyczy
speech for you. The question is about Constitutional Tribunal. We have heard that it has not existed for some time, but there is the citizens' right to submit a claim to the Constitutional Tribunal. Since it has not existed, our citizens were deprived of it. If the Constitutional Tribunal is restored and it's not a culinary but constitutional one,
To ze względu na
would the people
nie złożyły
who
skargi
did not
konstytucyjnej
manage to submit constitutional claims have the right to do so after it has been restored?
Czy ktoś z Państwa polityków chce odpowiedzieć na to pytanie?
Would
czy
any of
wolne
the
sądy biorą
politicians
was
or
do siebie?
free courts?
Państwo politycy mówią, że Państwa. Wolne sądy. Proszę bardzo.
okay.
Polityka, bardzo proszę.
Politicians, you are going to rule potentially after the 15th of October. You surprised me because I thought that nobody would like to submit any applications to the Culinary Tribunal.
Dziwmy się, to po prostu tak działa.
It works like that, no wonder. But if in a situation when the institution has not been made ridiculous, such applications could be submitted. That's the role to deal with citizens' applications. Any other questions from the audience, or could we start closing the freedom games? There is one more question at the back. Could you please approach us?
To pani do nas zmierza takim dziarskim krokiem. Zapraszamy, chwileczkę. Poprosimy na prawo.
Dobry wieczór.
Good evening. Dagmara Poszepczyńska-Sobieraj. I've got the question whether the solutions you presented in the draft acts, I may not understood it well. Do they include solutions that will protect us for the future? Or perhaps in 4, 8 or 12 years will be at the starting points when it all turns upside down. Although okay, and yet again, each of these acts moves forward. The act assuming rebuilding the rule of law and dealing with the National Justice Board assumes that will appoint a social board representing lawyers. There are some solutions that assume appointing judges for the National Justice Board by a greater majority. Each of these acts assumes certain solutions that are supposed to protect the authority of the institution and its correct operation in the future. The Act on the Constitutional Tribunal assumes that everybody who violated the law can be sued to court, and it's also about adding the judges that do not work for the time being. This is the method to deal with the manipulated sentences. I'm of a different opinion. Free courts would like to comment on it.
I have to tell you one thing. Goodwill is of key importance. However, this will, sooner or later, as we have found out in the recent years, had to take this barbarian shape towards the constitution. I spoke to Józef Zich, the same spokesman. I asked him, why didn't you define how the judges for the National Justice Board should be selected. We wouldn't have thought before that it would be interpreted in such a political manner as it had been done by the Law and Justice. So the victory of democratic parties will guarantee that we will sort it out. And the last sentence, you cannot do this. It doesn't matter how many locks we will install on the doors, how many securities we will add in the act. If somebody comes and kicks the door will fall out. So, how to secure ourselves that the new things will not be damaged? It's our culture, it's our legal culture, trust in institution, and it's up to us. It doesn't mean, of course, when we draft the acts, they have to be very precise, and we have to learn our lessons of the past. Would you like to add anything? Very briefly, because we have to close the panel. Good question you have asked. I agree. Every act can be amended and can be put to the dustbin. Any security can be violated, and we have witnessed it. And I agree that the democratic and legal culture is very important. It's important who is the ruling party. But it's up to the citizens who decide which parties are the ruling ones. So the citizens agreed that the ruling party will be the Law and Justice. So they felt before they were not listened, they were not heard. So this is a huge political accountability also for us, because we need to encourage people, convince people that we can provide social security and freedom, that they do not have to give up, they do not have to give the rule of law, the democracy and freedom away, and they can feel safe. And this is a huge channel for the next term, for the next years to come. We cannot allow the situation that some of the people, a majority of the people, as we can see in Poland, they should feel that next choices will be easier, that they won't have to choose a smaller evil. And hopefully on the 15th of October, the Parliament will be developing drafting laws by experts. So be very careful when you're voting. So thank you very much. Thank you free courts. Thank you politicians. We haven't still heard it, but I would like to thank the organizers of Freedom Games 2023, the turning point. Many of us are keeping our fingers crossed that it's the turning point in Poland. So let's not sleep on the 15th, because they will take our votes away. So maybe we will meet with you next year. Good night. Ladies and gentlemen, the Freedom Games have come to the end.
Mamy wielką nadzieję, że Was zapłodniliśmy intelektualnie i zainspirowaliśmy do działania i że 15 października dojdzie do punktu zwrotnego. Natomiast chciałbym, żebyście jeszcze chwilkę z nami zostali, ponieważ igrzyska nie odbyłyby się, gdyby nie praca ogromnej ilości wspaniałych osób, naszych współpracowników i wolontariuszy, których chciałem tutaj gorąco zaprosić przed scenę. Warto docenić ich brawami. Chodźcie tutaj wszyscy. Bardzo Was zapraszam. Wspaniałe grono młodych ludzi. Bez szaleńczego wysiłku tej grupy, która tutaj pracowała dzień i noc, przygotowywała igrzyska, ta impreza nie mogłaby się odbyć. Zapraszam również cały mój zespół Liberté, bo widzę, że tam pod ścianą jeszcze parę osób stoi. Chodźcie tutaj na środek. Zapraszamy absolutnie wszystkich. O, Olga Łabędowicz, bez której absolutnie to forum nie byłoby możliwe. Wielkie, wielkie brawa dla Was wszystkich. Jestem naprawdę dumny, że mogę pracować z tak kapitalną grupą osób, która nie zawodzi, zawsze walczy do końca. Asia Głodek to jest kolejna osoba, którą Państwa znać. Bardzo, bardzo Wam dziękuję. Widzimy się za rok. Mam nadzieję, że w trochę innej Polsce w połowie października. A teraz wielka mobilizacja na najbliższe 30 dni i do zobaczenia.
It's not always easy to recognize. It may look like this, or like this. It may be a burden, but it is a responsibility that we embrace nonetheless. But if it means this for one person and this for someone else, maybe it ultimately means being there for one another. It isn't handed to us, but we know where to find it. And how it feels, how it tastes, and what it sounds like when we finally have it. It means different things to different people, but for many, it means everything. And if we all fight for it, it will eventually bring us together.
Ihrer Ausreise.
Jestem z zawodu lekarzem, zajmowałam się diagnostyką chorób nowotworowych.
W Białorusi zajmowałam się mikrobiologią i molekularną biologią.
Byłem nauczycielem szkoły podstawowej.
Naszym celem jest budowanie umiejętności, które są ważne na polskim rynku pracy.
Szybko nabierają takiej pewności siebie, bardzo szybko się uczą.
Wszystko możliwe, kiedy starasz się.
Każdy wybór ma swoje konsekwencje.
Dziś na kazaniu o takich jak ty mówili, że to morderczynie.
A wiesz, że ta, która ci pomogła, trafi za kraty?
Trzeba mieć sumienie.
Jak mogłaś to zrobić własnej matce?
Aborcja to najgorsza zbrodnia.
Gdybym ja podjęła taką decyzję, nie byłoby cię tutaj.
Organy państwa nie będą przyglądać się temu obojętnie.
Życie i zdrowie kobiety jest najważniejsze.
Stop kryminalizacji aborcji.
Kobieta decyduje.
Dzień dobry.
Dzień dobry. Pan Zbigniew Hołdys.
Zgadza się. Dla znajomych Zbyszek.
Serio? Zbyszek. Nadchodzące wybory są zbyt ważne, żeby zostawić je bez kontroli. Dołącz do obywatelskiej kontroli wyborów. Zróbmy wybory bez picu.